Sidechain compression is a fundamental technique of modern production. Today I'm going to explain all of the nuances, all of the details, all of the tools that you need to know about. And make sure you watch to the end because I'm going to show you an advanced technique that you do not want to miss. Hey guys, Dilby here. Welcome back to the channel. So sidechain compression, or more commonly referred to just as sidechaining, is a very common, very popular, very handy production technique that you need to know about. At first glance, you might think sidechaining, sure, I know what that is. It's that pumping sound that you do to the bass to get that womp, womp, womp sound. If you like the track that's playing in the background, it's a new one of mine. It's a collab with my bro, Mustafa Ismail, and it's on our new label, Narratives. If you want to check that out further, there's a link in the description to Beatport and Spotify. Your support is much appreciated. And as always, if you want to grab the project files from this video, you can do so in the link in the description to Patreon. Patreon is one of the best ways that you can support the channel and make sure I keep bringing you these videos on a consistent basis. Now let's get into Ableton and do some sidechaining. Alright guys, so here we are inside Ableton, and I've put together a bit of a deep house beat to demonstrate how we can do some sidechaining, both simple and more advanced methods. So let's take a quick listen through. So the beat's pretty cool, but it's got a few flaws in there, which are going to be fixed, demonstrating some sidechaining techniques. As I mentioned in the intro, the project files are available from Patreon, and most of the sounds here have come from Underground Shades of House Volume 2 on houseofloop.com. I'll link that up here for you. So first up, we're going to do our classic sidechain, which is basically what most people think of when they think of sidechaining, and this is going to be the kick ducking the volume of the bass. So at the moment, we've got our kick playing, and we've got our bass playing. So in this kind of style of music, you know, maybe I think I referenced some Chris Stussy and Josh Baker tracks for this, but we'll notice that there's quite a few like on-beat bass notes, and they help to give it the groove that we're after, but they also are going to clash with the kick. So basically the kick and the bass are going to be the two strongest elements in the track in terms of energy because they've got the most sub-frequencies in them. So we can have a look at the kick here with the Oscillos Megascope. Right, now the bass. So there's not a lot of space for that kick to happen. When we play them together, so we're getting these huge spikes here in the waveform. So that's the level of the kick, that's the level of the bass, and then this is the level of both of them playing together. So that's going to be a real problem for mixing and mastering. The way we're going to solve that is with some sidechaining. So the most easy modern way to do this is with a sidechain plugin. This is one of the kind of most cost-effective, is Nicky Romero Kickstart 2. So basically this is like an LFO-based volume automation. So based on this LFO curve, it's going to be reducing the volume. So over every quarter note, it's going to repeat this automation on the volume. So let's have a look. I'll turn it to 0 and then we can bring it in. So that sounds pretty cool. Let's have a listen with the kick. Okay, and let's have a look at our scope. So we've fixed most of those problems, but we can see by looking at the scope in this situation, because the kick is not just playing a complete 4/4 pattern, there's a few kind of double hits here and there, it's actually still causing some problems that the kickstart doing that quarter note volume automation is not fixing. I will just show you one cool thing with the kickstart here. What we can do is use this band pass. So that's going to put like a low pass filter below this point So 1000 hertz or 200 hertz is the only place where the sidechain is going to be applied. So we can basically completely duck out the sub, but still have some of the audible mid-range of the bass coming through. So we're basically going to slide this slider up as far as we can, so it's ducking out as much as possible while still sounding the way we want it to sound. So that could be a good mix there. Let's have a look at the scope. So we're still getting the audible sound of that bass playing on the downbeat, but we're not getting the sub coming through. Now let's have a look at the alternative method for sidechaining. This is the more traditional method. So we're going to chuck a compressor on here. We are going to open up the sidechain input source kick, and we're going to put that to pre-effects. The reason I'm going to do that is because there are some points where the kick gets filtered. That's preference. Maybe you want it to be sidechaining less when the kick is filtered. I'm just going to have it doing it more consistently. So now we can see by this gain reduction that the input is actually triggering on those double kicks. So if we want to, we can bring this down a bit more. So we're getting a bit more gain reduction. Now let's have a look at our megascope. So you can see there we've solved those problems with those double notes hitting on the bass. We're not getting the big volume spikes anymore. So that's our kick bass sidechain, the thing that most people think of when they think of sidechaining. But let's dig a little deeper into what else we can sidechain to help to balance this mix a bit. So I've got a clap and snare layered here, but I've also got a top loop here. Let's have a look at our... So we've got a lot of energy on that clap. When we play it with the kick, see we're adding a lot of volume on that second beat, right? So what I'm going to do is on this top, I like the vibe of the top, but I don't need so much of that clap coming through. So what I'm going to do is take the sidechain input from the snare. The reason I'm choosing the snare is because it's playing on every second beat, as opposed to the clap, which has also got some additional groove kind of notes here. So again, I'm going to take this and put it pre-effects. So here, we're completely blocking out the clap from this top loop. So now we've still got a little bit of difference in the kick to clap volume, but it's a lot more balanced than it was before. We still get some of the vibe that that clap on that top loop is offering, but it's not causing the same problems in the mix. Now, we have another kind of issue with this top loop. I like using top loops, but they can present a lot of problems in the mix because you start getting like a build-up of volume and a build-up of frequencies. I'm bringing in this open hat, which I think really lifts up the groove when it comes in. I want it to be loud and I want it to have impact, but it feels like it's getting a bit harsh. There's a bit too much going on in those high frequencies. Now we're going to introduce frequency-based sidechaining, and for this I'm going to use Sonable Pure Unmask. Another very popular version of what I'm doing here is with a plugin called Track Spacer, but this is my preference. So I've put this onto the top loop and I'm going to route the input from my open hat. I'm going to change the algorithm to drums, and then I'm going to loop around here where the open hat is playing. I'm going to hit this record button so that it's going to learn the sound of the open hat. So now basically what it's going to do is duck out competing frequencies when this comes in. So let's turn it up 100% so it's a bit more extreme. It actually doesn't sound too bad at 100%. Normally I would go a little bit more gentle. Let's try it at 50%. But basically those two hi-hats, the hi-hat in this top loop and this open hi-hat, are containing a lot of the same frequencies. So it's going to basically take out the frequencies from the top loop that are present in the open hat. Sounds good to me at about 67%. So this is super helpful for balancing a mix. Volume's still your most important tool for balancing a mix, then probably something like panning or just simply having one thing play then the other. But when you're building up layers of similar elements, something like this can just be absolutely gold. So let's have a look at another problem. It's similar to the hats example, but more problematic because this track has, I would say, two hooks. It has the vocal. Nice. And then in this little break, I introduce this organ e-piano Wurlitzer thing. Very cool. But they're both occupying a lot of the same frequencies. So when they play together, not so much on this high note, but on these lower notes of the vocal's kind of getting drowned out. They're really fighting for attention and for space. Now, I think they're both important elements for the track. You could have them alternating so that when the vocal's playing, the Wurlitzer turns off, but I'm going to give it a try using the pure unmask again, and I'm going to, in this case, give preference to the vocal. So I select my input here, go to Vox Adlib, and I'm going to put it to vocals. Then let's loop it, hit learn. So in this type of application, I think it's probably a better idea to take it easy, go gentle. Otherwise, you get this kind of weird feeling where one of the elements disappears a bit much, and especially if they're both quite prominent elements, that can sound a little odd. But let's try it around about maybe 65 again. Maybe a little bit much. I think I've got a feeling that with the whole track playing, it's not going to sound as strange, but let's just get it sounding nice like this. Sounds good to me. That's good. Now there's one thing which you may have noticed. We've got this ride, which is just overbearing. It's chaotic. What I'm going to do is use a kickstart. Now we've got a bunch of different LFO input, basically patterns at which it's going to automate the volume. So I'm going to use this one, this called sub-bass chain, which is basically, so this is set to quarter notes. So halfway is an eighth note. So it's kind of like ducking out the first eighth note, and this is going to give the effect of the first one of these rides playing quieter, basically like this. Instead of so that's going to get the ride out of the way a bit, but it's also going to add a lot of groove to the track, and you can use sidechaining to add groove to your elements, especially when they're more background or secondary elements. see how that ride feels like it just kind of slots into place there? It's not got so much energy, it's not so overbearing, and it kind of helps the track to roll as well. Now, one last sidechaining tip for you, and this is a bit more of an advanced one. So I use a bus system for mixing my drums. I balance them all, but then to kind of get them to sound as one cohesive thing, I route each of these groups, the clap, hat and percussion groups, to this drum bus, and I do some mixing with this. So I've basically got a compressor to just control the peaks, balance it out a bit more, some parallel compression, which is kind of beefing things up and filling in a bit of the space, a little bit of saturation, very subtle, just to kind of color everything and make it sound a bit more as one, a little bit of stereo imaging, and then, so on the drum bus channel, we can see I'm using send 1 at -25 to send the full drum signal to return A. Return A is my drum verb, and that is coming from Verb Suite Classics by Slate Digital. I've got that set to 100% wet, and I'm just using the send to control how much of that is going to happen. So it's parallel reverb that's being applied additional to the dry signal in the drum bus. But that's not the point here. We're cutting out the subs and a little bit of the low mids, and then we have this sidechain. The source for the sidechain compressor is the drum bus. So basically when the drums are playing, the sound of those dry drums is going to duck out some of the reverb signal. What this does is allows me to use quite a bit of reverb so that it sounds like spacious and lush, but without losing the kind of punch and attack of the drums. It's very subtle, but it does make a difference. You'll hear it more if I increase the amount of reverb. And pull the threshold down. It's intended to be subtle and the effect is very slight, but especially in a busy track, things like this really do add that extra little 1% to the mix. So that's sidechaining in a nutshell, a bunch of different techniques, use cases, and implementations that I use in every project that I do. If you want to grab a copy of this project, then you can download that from Patreon. There's a link in the description. There's this project and so many more. So get over there, have a look behind the scenes and how everything's done. And if you like the sounds, then as I said, that is from Underground Shades of House, Volume 2 on House of Loop. Alright guys, there you go. That's sidechaining. Done and dusted. What did you think? Did you know all these techniques? Or did I miss something? Let us know in the comments. And if you're looking for something to watch next, then check out this. I think you're going to like it. Well, that's it from me today. I'll catch you next time. Peace.